Hey, Board Gamers, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here, back with another episode of Gumbo Live. I've got some co-hosts tonight that'll be popping in and out. The main guy, Dave Dugas from the Crew to Gumbo. Say hey, Dave.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
And I also got Chris Kirkman, the man Dice Hate Me himself, one of the Hootie and the Blowfish's greatest fans.
It's true. Thanks for having me.
That's right. Hey, hit us up on social media anytime you want to talk about board gaming. We got @BoardGameGumbo on Twitter, Facebook.com/BoardGameGumbo, or you can always email the show at BoardGameGumbo@gmail.com. Chris, a couple of show notes for you before we begin. We got some upcoming guests. Dave, we're going to be talking to Lance Meister, the Undead Viking himself, next week from TMG about their Downfall Kickstarter and also anything else we can scrounge up about it, maybe the flow of the history. We can get some news on that. And then the following Tuesday, October 17th, Chris Kirkman, Dice Hate Me. You know that guy, Chris.
Hey, it's Chris.
I know that guy a little bit.
Yeah, and he's going to be talking about a game. I am super excited. Chris, you and I have something in common. We both love early American history. I'm a big fan of that. Love to study about it. And you've got a big game coming out you want to talk to us about on October 17th, right?
Absolutely. Legends of Sleepy Hollow. We'll talk about the sequel to Washington Irving's famous short story.
I can't wait to talk about that one, and I'm going to be looking for the Kickstarter. And in fact, I think the Kickstarter will be live that day.
Yeah, October 17th. Yeah, Tuesday, October 17th. Yeah, we go live.
Wow, you are going to be a busy guy that day.
Oh man, the next 2 weeks are insane. I don't even know why I'm awake right now, but we'll do it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear. And we'll save some of that talk later. And then on the blog side, which is a proud member of Punchboard Media, we've got a couple of good blog posts for you to check out. Our buddy Jason Dinger, Captains of the Golf Designer, did a review of an older Queen game. He loves those Queens games. Fresco. That's one that kind of went under the radar, but he's a big fan of it. And also, Dave and I played the heck out of Photosynthesis, and I wrote a blog post about it. So you can check out a Euro Dustin Boatman that we played in the last month, an actual Euro. That's
right. Imagine that.
Photosynthesis, I don't care what you say, Dustin, it's a Euro dressed up with pretty trees. But it's a fantastic game, and I think an early contender for SDJ, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, it possibly could be. There's no way that I would ever predict it to win, but it could
just
be
a nominee. Just a nominee.
It could be a nominee. I will say it does have the pedigree for it. It's a little bit. I might say it's a little bit heavier than most STJs would normally be. But now that they've started putting in the exit and things like that, they started expanding a little bit more into STJ and coming closer to the Kennerspiel. It's got a good chance.
The rules of the game have changed a little bit, don't you think?
It has. It's true. Yeah.
And it's got the pretty look. It's got the relatively easy rules. Although I don't know if you know, there's been some translation errors between the French rules and the American rules that have got a lot of people in a tizzy. But
tizzy, oh yeah.
We got that straightened up. So did we lose Dave there? Dave, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I can't hear Chris though. Unfortunately.
I can't see your face either. So that's going to be kind of weird.
Oh.
That is going to be.
I'm gonna get out of here and jump back on.
All right, that sounds good. All right, so we're losing him. So, Chris, it's an opportune time. We're going to talk about some recent games. One that I'd like to hear from you on to see if you've ever played this really cool game called Fate of the Elder Gods.
Maybe a few times.
Yeah, Chris, for the people that don't know you, tell them about a little bit about yourself.
I am currently game development director at Greater Than Games. I merged my company, Dice Hate Me Games, with Greater Than Games back in February of 2015. I think it was 15. Yeah, it's been a little while. Hey, New Bedford, there you go. I like that. One of our Dice Hate Me Games releases. That's right. That's one of my favorite games. Also, one of my favorite people, Nolan Nasser. I got to meet him at PAX South 2017. Fantastic guy. From right next door in Texas originally. Yeah, he is. How did you guys find Nolan Nasser? Well, we have Jen Clausen, who works for Greater Than Games with us. She's sort of our art director. Myself and Daryl Louder, we do graphic design and do art direction, and Adam Ribataro does some art directions. But the overall the goal of what Jen does is to be art director. And so we were just looking through different things, and she found Nolan on a whim and decided to ask him to help out with New Bedford, and it just worked out fantastically. So we started using him not only for New Bedford, but Fate of the Elder Gods, and we've used him for Spirit Island, and He's just been awesome. So happy.
I think we got Dave back. Is that right, Dave?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yep.
I'm back.
So, Dave,
I can actually hear and see Chris now. It's amazing. Technology, right?
The miracle of technology. So, let's see. No, I'm just checking to see if the comments. They are posting comments, but not those are some of the old ones. Hey, so one of the recent games that Dave and I played is Fate of the Elder Gods, a game, Chris, you co-designed with Richard Lanius and with Daryl Lauder.
Yep. Love that game.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate that.
Dave, you've played
that game. I played it 5 or 6 times already.
Yeah, you played it way more.
And I would play it. Oh, dude, I'd play it all the time. Dude, I really enjoy that game, dude. So okay, now let me ask you a question, Chris. All right?
Sure.
Here it comes.
Were you sitting down playing a game of Dead of Winter and just said, "Wow, I could put this in this game," and just like, bam, it works.
Here's the thing about the curses. This is cool. This is actually a fun story. Daryl and I had both played Dead of Winter. And when we first started talking about something we could add more into the game, that what we worried about is we had a lot of immersion in the game, but with a 4-player game, there's a lot going on between turns.
Right.
And so we wanted to keep people engaged, and we said, like, what could we kind of do for that? And Daryl and Richard and I were all brainstorming. We were at Richard's house. And Richard just said, well, what about, like, you can't dabble in mystic arts without possibly getting cursed. And he said, what about curses? And we said, oh, that's great. Like, we could have a curse and, like, you don't know what it is and somebody else to do that. And then all of a sudden it just evolved out of Richard's idea, which he had never, from what I know, played Dead of Winter.
Right.
But Daryl and I immediately recognized the crossroad card mechanic and took that with what Richard had suggested and said, well, we can make it similar to that, but we'll just kind of, maybe we'll make it we started testing different ways, to the left, to the right, and see which one had the most immersion. And to the right made the most sense because you've already taken your turn before the person before you, so you're not quite as concentrated on your turn. You can focus on what they do. And so it all just kind of just came together. And the funny thing about the curses, though, is that Daryl and I started writing the curses out. And then Richard took a look at them. He's like, no, they're not mean enough.
Right. Oh, dude, they are so mean. Jesus.
Yeah, he was like, we thought they were mean, but Richard was like, no, they need to be meaner. And so he'd keep making them meaner. We're like, are you sure? So then we test them out, and he's like, okay, you're right. But yeah, it was funny.
Wait, the curses were meaner before the actual release?
No. They were mild. Richard is the one who kept going in and kept making meaner and meaner and meaner. And we're like, all right, you know what? You're right. But yeah, it was a fun process. There were a couple, though, that I had to say no. We cut a couple of them out because they were just nuts. But.
You got to give us one. What's one of them that was just so mean it just couldn't make it into production? Come on, give us one.
We actually had one at one time where you lost automatically.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you had to sit.
I wonder what. Well, what did you have to do to earn that one?
You had to. I mean, it rarely would trigger, and that's the problem.
Right.
It would rarely trigger. And most people want to see it kind of trigger.
Yeah, definitely.
We played around with for one game or something like that, just to see what would happen. But it was, I was realizing, number one, it wouldn't trigger. Number two, it would get into player elimination and not trigger the end of the game either, because we didn't want it to signal a premature end of the game either. And we're like, neither one of those things really makes sense in the context of this. So we had fun playing it, but at the same time, we're like, nah, it just doesn't belong. But we tested a lot of those different concepts.
One of the things that I liked about Fate of the Elder Gods is it spins, Fantasy Flight and a lot of other companies are always putting out these Cthulhu Mythos games. And all of a sudden you spin the mythos and turn it on its head. Hey, we're not the investigators beating back Cthulhu and his minions or its minions, the cultists. We're the cultists actually beating back the investigators. Where did that come from?
Well, the original
deep, dark recess in your brain that really wanted to wreak havoc on the world.
Well, myself, I mean, I just wanted to have an excuse for work with Richard, but Daryl. Oh
yeah, dude, how was that working with Richard?
So, I mean, he's the best.
I bet it was a great experience. Working with someone who did Arkham Horror and stuff like that. It's just
it's like I first played Arkham Horror back in '88, and I've known of Richard's name for a long time, and even getting into the hobby and playing further, I was a big fan of. I actually got to play Defenders of the Realm the first time with Richard at Origins 2011, and we just became friends. We started talking and having him on the podcast, and it was at Unpub of 2 years ago. It was me and Daryl and Richard. We were hanging out in the Unpub suite late at night, and Daryl had this idea for a game, this concept of the game of he wanted to make a game about the cultists because he had played Kingsport Horror, or Kingsport Festival, rather, sorry. And he liked it, but he didn't think it was quite what he expected, and he wanted to make a new game that kind of would play from the cultist perspective. And we just sat around, and Daryl and Richard threw some ideas, and I talked about some ideas that night at Unpub. And so Richard and Daryl started working back and forth on the project. And then, of course, obviously I was like, yeah, I want to work on this project, and I want to sign it for Dice Hate Me Games and grade the game, so let's do this. And so I got involved after they had done a couple iterations, and then started really digging into it and building onto it. And that's when we kind of just all became a three-person team building this entire thing, which was great because Richard is so humble, and he's just like, yeah, I love this idea. Let's try this, and we'll try that. And we got a chance to go to his house and have, like a 4-day weekend where we just had iteration upon iteration of the game project, and we were able to test with a whole bunch of different people, and it's just been a great process.
Yeah, so Chris, you're over in North Carolina. He's down in Atlanta, if I remember right.
He's in South Carolina.
Oh, he's in South Carolina.
Oh, y'all like neighbors.
Yeah, it's not far.
Well, I knew he had worked for AT&T at one time, so I thought he had been out of Atlanta. But
he was in Atlanta previously, and then he and his wife, after most of his kids had grown up, they decided the house was too big. They sold after he retired. They sold their house in Atlanta, moved to up into not too far, about 3.5 hours from me in South Carolina. So
was most of the work done on the internet, or did y'all power through it on these big weekends?
It was most of it in the beginning was Daryl and Richard talking via the phone, and then Daryl would send him emails with ideas, and they'd do a certain build. Now, when it got to a certain point where Daryl had a working prototype that I could play, he brought it to me to play at PresCon, which is in Charlottesville, about 2 years ago. And so I sat down and played it, and I knew, and I was involved, or at least I was in the loop as far as what they were talking about, because I was going to have to be involved in development. And so I sat down and played the game, and I said immediately, okay, these things need to happen because number one, it's too long. Number two, we have to have more player interaction. All the hallmarks of things we need to do to make the game better. And I love the theme, but also since I'm so immersed in Cthulhu and Lovecraft themes, and especially growing up with Richard's games and talking with Richard for so long, I started basically making some notes. And then I went to Daryl's house over my spring break. Sometimes I'll teach graphic design at UNC Chapel Hill. And so I had a spring break that year. So I took an entire week, went to Daryl's house and did development with him the entire week. And then I think about a month later, we went down to Richard's and did development on it from that point. And then we started sending out for blind play tests and so on and so forth to refine it. So it was like lots of little conversations, 2 really big, huge sessions of development on it where we just prototyped it constantly, just reiterations of new things and notes and things and played it out. And then we sent it out for blind play tests and went from there.
Dave, you had a question?
Oh, no, I was going to make a comment about the curses, right? Okay, so the first time we played, I know you came out with a video about the 5 common mistakes that people make in Fate of the Order Gods. And one of the mistakes we had made that wasn't mentioned on the video, you might want to mention it, just saying, we forgot that spells that you ready can be used towards readying spells that we had misplayed that. But one of the people we played with finally got to be able to ready a spell, but he was cursed at the same time. And this is like the game's almost over, and he's like, "Man, I finally get to ready a spell." And they were like, "Wait, you got cursed." And like the look on his face, Dustin, it looks like he just
like he'd been shot.
Like he's oh, it was great.
That happened.
And we all busted out laughing, but yeah, that was a great experience. Dude, I love that game, man.
Thank you. And that happened to us actually at Grand Con. We had in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think 2 weeks ago. Both Richard and I were there, and we had some charity play with they play to win. So I sat down and played one game, and Richard played a game. And in the game that I played, this woman who was playing with us, she was actually behind us way on the summoning track and was kind of just playing it real slow, real quiet. And she finally got to cast a spell, but she had been cursed, and it was the same one. And it got rid of her spell, and all of a sudden she was like, "Oh, I mean, I felt so bad because I wanted her to." But the thing is that she fought back after that and beat us.
Wow.
It was awesome. I mean, she just looked at it and she's like, I'm going to get this game. I'll get all of y'all. And she just set out to do it. And just slowly, she just eked that all the way up on the summoning track. It was amazing. It was a great game.
Now, Chris, I see you guys put this out on this Greater Than Games Fabled Nexus line. It doesn't really fit the Dice Hate Me Americana brand, right?
Yeah.
Was that the thinking behind it?
Yeah, and when we first merged, we had already the Greater Than Games Sentinel Comics imprint. Okay. And we already had the Dice Hate Me Games imprint, which was it's a very specific genre and aesthetic, for Americana and things like that. So in order to expand the company and the lines in general, we kind of came up with this Fabled Nexus imprint, which would allow me to play, and the rest of us, if we want to play in this sci-fi genre, pop culture type of genre, or overarching world that didn't fit quite into the Dice Hate Me mold or the Sentinels Comics mold. So that's where we came up with like Laser Riders and Spirit Island. They fit into that, and Fate of the Elder Gods.
Now, Dave and I were talking tonight. We played. It seems like this game is ripe for expansions. I mean, it seems like you can plug stuff in. What do you think?
Dude, I meant to get.
I know.
I wish I would have got
expansions.
The Beast from Beyond, right? Mm-hmm. For Fate of the Other Gods. I wish I would have got it, man. When I had the chance, I got my copy at Gen Con. I didn't know much about the game. I demoed it and I liked it, but I wish I would have sprung out and got the expansion as well. Because
I'll tell you what, you send me a note after this and you promise to cover it on the podcast, then we'll send you a copy.
Oh, dude, awesome!
I appreciate that, Chris. That'd be awesome. Yeah. So is that the only expansion, or are there plans?
That is the only expansion. We have the promo stuff that came with Kickstarter that we will continue to offer for promotional at conventions for now. Eventually, they'll be for sale on our website and probably through the BGG store.
Like the mat?
Oh, the mat. Well, we're debating that right now because
great mat. Wait, I didn't see the mat. Tell me about the mat.
Oh, it's a neoprene mat, right?
Yeah, no, what Dave and I saw was an actual, and I'm assuming this.
With at Gen Con, they had the table.
Oh, the table, yeah.
Dude, the table was sick.
If I go to my regular, friendly local game store, I should be able to just pick that up in the box.
Oh, sure, absolutely. We'll have one that's just collapsed for you. Just put it together. Yeah, we wish we could make those.
I was right across the street from you guys. I was demoing Kaiju Crush for Fireside, and then and those guys. And every time Dave and them would come by, they'd say, "You got to see the table." And I was like, "It's a table."
Oh yeah, dude.
You remember Dave?
I kept on pulling Barry. I said, "Dude, you got to check this table out, man. It is the actual board. The table is the board."
Whose idea
was sick.
Where did that come from, Chris?
We started doing that. Oh, I'm trying to think. It was ACD Games Day of 2015, I believe, if I recall correctly. I think 2002 must have been 2 years ago. But up in Madison, we have the ACD, which is the distribution company. They have a games day, and it's early spring, and so we kind of went out. We were actually pitching bottom of the ninth at that point. It was going to be fairly new and released, and so Jen had the idea of pub tables, and it's pretty easy to do. I mean, you just have to pay, get the design done, but you can get these vinyl stickers, and you can get them in such a way that you put them across the pub table, and then you cut around the edge, and so then you got the nice circular pub table with the sticker on top of it. And we've, since Bottom of the Ninth was received so well on top of that, we started doing it with a lot of our projects. We did it with Sentinels. Fate is one of the best ones because people just see that and it's already set up there. New Bedford's another one we have set up that does that really well.
BJ, that's your game.
Well, Fate of the Elder Gods works perfectly because it's a round board.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yep, absolutely.
It looks
and so
good
some things work better than others, but Laser Riders is one of them, and Pay the Other Gods works really well. So
I saw
Wait,
at
hold
Gen
on.
Con. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dave.
I saw at Gen Con they had the bottom of the ninth app or the phone, the game. The app.
absolutely.
It looked awesome, dude. Yeah.
Yeah,
It looked great. It looked cool with
great.
the meeples on the. I haven't played it or I didn't get to try it out at Gen Con, but it looked amazing.
It's a ton of fun. And Handalabba's done a great job with it. They did a great job with the Sentinels app, obviously, but adapting the bottom of the ninth app has been just fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to call shenanigans on Laser Riders though.
What's that?
Oh, well, a round table. I thought I remember from the rules you're supposed to play on a square table, or is it a round table? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you can play on any table. You can play on any surface you want to. That's the thing about Laser Riders. It's wide open. You just go and just have fun with it. So.
Well, as you know, a couple of us are a part of the Envoy system, and you guys were nice enough to send some copies out to Gulf Coast Gaming. That's the guys that did our library for our local con. We had over 1,300 games, and one of them was Laser Riders. Now, of course, I knew about the game. We had seen it at Gen Con. One of the guys pulled it out, and it's one of those games where everybody likes to see the box. You know, everybody. I mean, you guys did. It's typical of your games.
Amazing.
The box is really catchy. But I wondered about the game itself. The game gets put out, and once Kent learned how to play the rules, I'm not kidding. He was on that table for 2 days because people would come by and say, "Oh my God, that looks like Tron on a board game," and he'd say, "Yeah, let me teach you how to play it." It was pretty easy to teach. And now he wasn't using a square table. We had these big, long, the regular plastic tables, but he made it work. He just kind of put some boxes around, and I'm not kidding. That game stayed played for 2 days. So
that's awesome.
I guess you guys getting some good feedback on Laser Riders?
Yeah, we have. We've already gone into the second printing of Laser Riders. It's one that I imagine we'd probably sell out pretty quickly from it. The Kickstarter did pretty well. I thought that it would do slightly better than it did, but it's one of those that it's like when people pass it at conventions, it has such an amazing table presence that you just immediately.
Oh, definitely.
Oh yeah,
it just looks like a collection of VHS tapes. I'm like, dude, this is my childhood in a box right here.
It is.
I have to get this, or like at least try it out. And then once you put it on the table, all the pieces like shine and they have a certain kind of reflection to them. You know what I'm saying? It looks great on the table.
Chris, I may have had posters on my wall with those exact shiny. What do you call that in graphic design? It's a
holographic.
Holographic.
Yeah. It's got the UV coating, but it also has the reflective chrome coating on it, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have posters like that on our walls. We'd go to buddies' houses, and everybody had to have that kind of style poster. So for me, it brings back 5th and 6th grade, 4th grade, 7th grade times. For Dave, he was like a year old, but
oh yeah.
Well, that's what we wanted.
We had to rewind VHS tapes by hand back then, so.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, go ahead.
So you going to say about Laser Riders?
No, I was just going to say, like, Laser Riders has been one of those things that I knew from the moment I saw it, and I saw it at Unpub 2 years prior from us putting it. I think it was I'm trying to think, it was Unpub 5. So I knew that Anthony and Nicole had been working on the design of this, and I saw it very early at the convention at Unpub, which is an unpublished games convention for everybody out there listening who doesn't know. And at late night after hours, I saw it on a round table, and everyone was playing, and I was watching everybody, check it out. And then I got a chance to take over for a player. And the first turn that I took, I was like, "Yep, we're signing this." So the next day, I said, "Anthony, we want this game. Let's work together." And he's like, "Yeah, let's do this." So it was just no brainer. It's just one of those that looks great on the table. It's easy to play. It just harkens back to so many nostalgic things, but also it's a package game.
But the VCR box came later as part
of
the
package, come later,
right?
Yes.
Okay, so that wasn't in Anthony's mind at first?
Well, I mean, I think that the 80s aesthetic was definitely part of Anthony's mind. Both Anthony and Nicole are big fans of that aesthetic, and it just kind of, with even seeing that, I knew it was going to mesh with what we were going to do at Great at the Games. And so Jennifer and the team kind of got together and came up with the concept of all the different things that we could do with it, and we decided to do the VHS tapes and it just, we got Blood and Chrome. I don't even know Blood and Chrome's real name, but the artist Blood and Chrome, who does amazing, this retro style with airbrush and stuff. It just blew it out of the park as far as this 80s type of thing. And even culminating with Trevor, the guy who does our videos and things, creating this faux history of the laser riders and doing and last time on the episode, the laser riders were doing this, it was definitely like hitting all cylinders to dig into that homage to 80s culture. And it was perfect.
Well, BJ from Board Game Gumbo here with another episode of Gumbo Live. Have Dave Duga and Chris Kirkman here tonight. One of the things that we wanted to talk about also was the favorite game experiences since Gen Con. Has there been anything, Chris, it doesn't have to be your favorite game, just what's been a favorite game that you've played since Gen Con? Anything comes to mind?
I have to just say Wasteland Express delivery service.
Nice.
I mean, it's just so fun. And I was just so again, this goes back to Unpub 5, but I was one of the first play testers with Matt Riddle and Ben Pinchback, the designers. And they had this design that he worked on for a long time called Space Vikings, and they started to adapt it into this wasteland trucking situation. And Dan Patrice and I sat down with it, and I loved it because it's in my wheelhouse. I love that Mad Max post-apocalyptic type of thing, but also the pick up and deliver mechanic of what you're doing during the game. So we played it a couple times, made some suggestions, which thankfully, thanks to Matt and Ben, they included in some of the final iterations of the game. But to watch it through its development all the way until it got to the incredible production that Pandasaurus Games put into it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's got to win Insert of the Year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Here's what I liked about Wasteland Express. So many times you see, especially with small publishers, not people like you guys, although I know you're not Asmodee or anything like that, but you've got professionals that are working and thinking, but you see a lot of times these Kickstarter ones where they say, okay, we got to put some flavor text in there because Magic cards have flavor text and these games have flavor text, and then no one ever reads them because they're boring or they're trite or they're tropes, just regular fantasy tropes. I don't know who wrote the flavor text for Ben and Matt, but in our instance, the guy who taught us the game, who normally doesn't teach anything about the theme, it's just kind of and he's probably the best teacher we have, Bradley. Bradley's probably the best teacher we have in all of the crew to Gumbo.
Second to Barry.
Second to Thank you, I appreciate that. But
okay.
don't forget Bruno Feduti bought a game that taught it. Don't forget. I always have to remind Dave that. But the Bradley doesn't really teach the theme. He's excellent at giving the mechanics, getting you up to play, but sometimes you don't know exactly why you're doing all this stuff, right? And that's the part that I'm interested in. And yet Bradley read every single one of I forgot what they're called, but those cards that describe what's going to happen this round.
Oh, the event cards, right? Yeah.
Yeah. He read every one of them. Instead of just saying, hey, guys, this time we can't, all goods are worth only $1 this round. And he read them and he laughed and he giggled and we all laughed. And it was part of that whole experience of getting into the flavor of the game.
Absolutely.
Is there something about Wasteland Express that stands out for you like that?
Yeah. Well, all right. So knowing Matt and Ben for so long and working with Matt and Ben both now on a very thematic game, I can guarantee you who didn't write those cards. It's Matt Riddle.
We're calling Matt Riddle out on the podcast.
No, we are. Wow. We're going to. We would totally say the same thing because Matt is totally a mechanics guy. And we've had him on the State of Games and the podcast, and he's just all like, I won't do a Matt Riddle impersonation, but he's just like, story theme, whatever. As long as the game plays good, that's what he wants. And that's
my kind of guy right there.
Yeah. Well, and that's what it is. And it's like, that's Matt. Ben is a little bit more of the thematics guy and gets more into the theme of types of things, but both of them working together that's their strength, and they're really tight on mechanics. But it's probably Nathan and a few other people who are working together, making most sure that a lot of that. Although I'm sure that they wrote the outlines of those cards together, Matt and Ben did, because even when we were playing the play test at Unpub, we talked about taking some of the situations that were in the game, instead of just pick up and deliver in a lot of sliding systems, making it more like thematic pick up and deliver systems. Like at that time, Firefly was out, and it's still a great game, but it was a good example of, okay, there's objective based scenarios that you could go into, and you need to write toward those. And I'm sure they started writing those in a certain way, and then Nathan at Pandasaurus started fleshing those out for that. But it just, it's just a cohesive whole. It makes sense as a product that was on all cylinders from all sides of the production.
What I also liked about it is, the typical pick up and deliver game is just a race for points, and everybody's kind of doing the same thing, just who's going to do it better. And this one, these guys, Matt and Ben, came up with a system where every one of us, all four of us at the table, were actually doing it a different way. Now,
Absolutely.
Yes, Bradley beat us as usual because he saw the most efficient way to win. But I actually, even though I didn't win the game, I felt like I was winning because every time I would turn over a card that was different from what the other guys were working on, I felt like I was winning. And that's anytime you can give rewards to a player like that instead of feeling, oh, I'm way behind the race. I like that.
Yeah, you got to keep it's player mentality. You got to keep player engagement, because as soon as one person checks out of the game, it'll break the whole game.
I guess it's going to be compared a little bit to Stefan Feld's game, and for the life of me, I'm drawing a blank that came out.
Oracle of Delphi?
Yeah, Oracle of Delphi.
Mm-hmm.
Not all pick up and delivery games are the same, BJ.
Yeah, they're not all the same, I know, but I mean they came out around the same.
They're kind of the same, but
Yeah, they're kind of the same, and they do have development tracks where it's not just pick up and deliver. You can actually make yourself better or less. I'll be honest, I'm not a Mad Max theme one like you, Chris. It's not one of my favorite themes, but I typically prefer Greek mythology better, but I much rather a Wasteland Express. I really did. It just felt more thematic to me.
Yep.
I didn't see much theme in Stefan Feld's game at all.
Yeah, Oracle of Delphi is fine. I love Feld's designs. I really do. But Oracle of Delphi was not one of his strongest for me.
What's your favorite?
It looks like I'm going to be in the minority.
What?
I prefer Oracles of Delphi, but that's just me.
That's all right.
Because I played Wasteland Express, right, and it was all right. To begin, I don't really care for pick up and delivery games, but I tried it out, and eventually all I did was going around in a circle. But that was because of my fault,
Yeah.
It's like I'm just driving around in circles doing nothing, but that was completely my fault,
Chris, Dave is downplaying it. He does not like pick up and deliver games. So
yeah, that's right.
It's pretty high praise for him to say he likes Oracle to Delphi. But how do you compare the two?
Oh, I'm excited. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you talking to me,
Dave?
Okay.
How did you, between the two of them, which one did you like?
I like the Oracles of Delphi better because it's more Euro-ish and it's more solitaire kind of. Well, I say solitaire. You are racing against other people, but I don't know. I kind of like solitaire games. I kind of don't. I don't know, man. It's just weird. I support
interaction.
Yeah, there's a little bit of player interaction, but I felt more of a race to try to get all my objectives done first. I got a better feeling of I'm really trying to do this first before this other person does it. And like the other one, like I said, it was my fault, but I was going around in a circle. I ended up getting stuck by what are they called? The nomads or the what are those people called? Yeah, the people that fight you.
Yeah, the
Raiders. Yeah, the Raiders. The Enclave. There you go.
Enclave, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it was totally 100% my fault. But I just I like the Oracles of Delphi better. But I am stoked about one Pandasaurus game that I saw at Gen Con coming out. Next year, the roller coaster one?
Coaster Park.
Dude, I want to try that out.
It's gonna be crazy.
Wait, have you got to try it, Chris?
I've seen it in person. I haven't actually played it, so I don't know how the game plays. But I did see the actual prototype that Nathan and company had there. And I know it's the Scott Alms game, and I talked to Scott a little bit about it. And I don't know the full scope of exactly how it plays, but it doesn't matter. The fact that they figured out how to, it's got a loop in it. It's It's a billion copies, man. It's a toy factor alone. I mean,
it's like nuts.
Raise your
pumped
hand.
Up version of Mousetrap or something.
Exactly.
Raise your hand if Roller Coaster Tycoon never left your computer when it first came out.
My God, yes, absolutely.
I played all 3 of those iterations until my computer was smoking. In fact, Steam Park, I bought almost sight unseen from just comments on the Dice Tower, all because I was like, wow, this, somebody said it's the closest thing we have to Roller Coaster Tycoon. And it's not, but it is a fun game.
It's a fun game, but it's not Roller Coaster Tycoon. If somebody came up literally with Roller Coaster Tycoon, the game, it would make so much money. And we don't. Right. I don't know if Coaster Park's going to be there and do that or not. But the art with Quan Chai plus Scott Alms and plus the 3D stuff, I mean, it's going to be amazing.
So Quan Chai's doing the art for that one?
Yeah, Quan Chai did the art for it. Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
Yeah, Dave, Quan Chai is the guy that did the art for Flip Ships and a bunch. I mean, he's got a bunch of games out right now, but his artwork in Flip Ships makes the game.
I'd like to go on record as being one of the first publishers to use Quan Chai. But,
did you? What was that?
Yeah, Take the Bait. Take the Bait has never been published, but the old cover for Take the Bait, Quan Chai back then was doing these sort of fan-based covers of games or refurbishes of games on BGG. And a couple of companies had said, don't do that. But other companies have been like, yeah, do that. And we were huge fans. And so I got in touch with Quan Chai, and this is like 2011, and said, we're doing a fishing game. I'd love for you to do some art for it. And so he did the cover, and it has been the best received cover we've ever done of a game we've never published. Wow. But everybody keeps asking about it because of Quan Chai's art. And so we had him do Don't Get Eaten as well, and I've been trying to get Quan Chai art to do forever, and it's like I'm so glad that he's out there and his art is being recognized and it's everywhere because he is an amazing artist.
So it's Take the Bait. Who designed that one? Is that the one that Matt and Ben are always talking about, their fishing game that never got published?
That's my fishing game, actually. Yeah, it was mine. Okay. Mine and my old ex-wife, Sherilyn, who was one of the other founders of That Same Games, and we designed it just on a whim at one point, and it's one that I've kind of broken out of the mothballs for now to try to do more development work on it. I don't know if it'll ever see the time of day, but it's one that's been fun to tinker with over the years. And since I've seen that, we had Coldwater Crown, which I liked quite a bit, but it didn't really feel like fishing. Take the Bait has that luck element to it, and it's one that I'd like to kind of see eventually come out from the Dice Hate Me games. Stable, if we can make it happen.
All right, so that's a game that Chris likes, and that's an excellent one. Wasteland Express. Full disclosure, I've only played it once, but I cannot wait to play it again. I really enjoyed it. Dave, you got a game for us since Gen Con? Let's see if we can stump Chris, because he's either seen or played every game we've mentioned so far. It's almost like he's in the industry.
Yeah, you would think so, right? Do I have a favorite game since Gen Con?
Okay, if you say Star Wars Destiny, I'm gonna hit the
No, it's not Star Wars Destiny. Even though I really enjoy that, but did it have to come out of Gen Con? Because the game I look forward to playing the most is Lorenzo El Magnifico.
Yep, absolutely. So no, it does not have to come out. Lorenzo El Magnifico, a 2017 release for us here in America, Chris, although I know it came out in Europe in 2016. We didn't see it on American shores till, was it Simon that brought it out, right? I think it's Simon that published it, yeah. Have you played Lorenzo, Chris?
You've stumped me. I have not. It's one that's on my list. It's one that's on my list.
It's great. It's a great worker placement with dice game. Kind of like I got one of the guys we play with, Dustin. He compares it to Lancaster. I don't know if you ever played.
Oh yeah,
older.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
is it Lancaster, or if you're from Pennsylvania, is it Lancaster?
Lancaster.
Yeah.
Semantics. Okay. BJ, semantics.
The first time I saw that game, though, Lancaster was in Lancaster at the World Board Gaming Championships.
There it is, so, Lancaster.
Right. Yeah. Definition of irony.
Yeah. So people that haven't played Lorenzo, Dave, tell people give Chris the elevator pitch.
Oh, sure. You have 3 different ages that you have to go through. You have 2 turns per age. With each age that you play, you have workers that you place on the board with cards that represent like family members and production. I forgot what the other ones were, and the purple ones are like basically victory points at the end of the game. You place your workers on this table, and you collect the cards. You have to pay of course, the amount to get the card. So there's like set collection in the game. There's production. I really, really enjoy that game. It's been one of my favorite games since Fate of the Elder Gods, too. And I'm like not even joking about that. I think it might be.
Here's the thing that I think is fascinating, because like talking to you during the podcast, our video cast, you've talked about Fate of the Elder Gods, which your enthusiasm totally sells me. I know you love the game, but it totally flies in the face of like the type of game you like, because you talk
okay, yeah.
Explain yourself, Dave Dugas.
Okay, all right. So Fate of the Elder Gods is very thematic, but it's also a Euro as well, and it's a very mean Euro.
It is a mean Euro, but yeah.
But it is a Euro, and I do enjoy that part. I get a kick out of the curses. And the first time I played it, right, to tell you the truth, it's really, there's a lot to the game as far as like total control and just basic control. Remembering what each location does. There's a lot to the game. And to tell you the truth, I'm not trying to, but it feels like you're just moving Cthulhu in a circle.
Right.
Once you play it a couple times, you're like, dude, there's like more strategy in this game than when you first play it. There's a lot more to this game, and like I do enjoy moving the cultists around. Like Secret Cabal said, it was Cthulhu Mancala.
Yeah,
I don't know if you heard that. Yeah,
yeah.
And it's kind of true, you know.
Yeah.
And I really do, but I also enjoy the theme of it as well. Believe it or not, I like how each cult that you have, your Elder One, have different powers or abilities that differentiate you from the rest of the Elder Gods or the rest of your opponents. And also like, what was his name? Azeroth, right? Is he?
Azeroth,
okay,
yeah.
like
Azeroth, yeah.
right. Okay, so he's the one that you gain a point every time you get an Elder Sign, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So like from everyone I've talked to that played the game, they said that he's the hardest one to beat in the entire game.
Totally OP, and we made that for a reason. That's why he's the promo god. But yeah,
okay. Because I did get the promos when I bought the game at Gen Con. I got 3 or 4 additional Elder Gods as well for buying the game. But yeah,
so Chris, you don't recommend Azathoth in the regular games?
I don't recommend Azathoth in the first game, by no means, and that's why it's a promo, because we came up with the concept of Azathoth because it's actually a way that balances both of the win systems together, and it's if you know how to shut down Azathoth, you can win.
Right.
But if you start out just playing, I mean, Azathoth will run away with the game, which is one of the reasons why we actually recommended to the Kickstarter backers an update saying don't play with Azathoth first, get used to the game first. Because like you mentioned, David, it's like there's a lot going on in the game, and you need to understand the mechanisms first.
Right.
And then you can introduce all of the stuff into it. But anyway, I didn't mean to hijack the conversation about Lorenzo.
I was going to say.
Oh, no, definitely.
And I don't
I get your question about... I get your question about why I like Fate of the Elder Gods so much when I've said like 2 pretty much over-the-top Euros that I really enjoy playing. I don't know, man. I like the Euro elements in the game, and I like that I really do enjoy the thematics, the thematic part of that game.
Well, the important thing is I love that you love the game, and that you also gave it the chance to like get into it and realize there's much more to it than right off the bat. Because once people dig into it after a couple times, there is just, I mean, I'm biased because I designed it, but I never want to design something I don't want to play. I play that game anytime. I've played it so many times, and I still love playing it. So much fun.
So back to Lorenzo, Dave. Why would Chris want to play Lorenzo?
I don't know, Chris. Why would you want to play Lorenzo? Do you like worker placement, Chris?
I love worker placement.
I've got a reason for you, Chris.
Dude.
Sure.
Have you played any games like My Village where there's you chunk out a bunch of dice, and the dice itself is going to be what you use to play the actions divided up between the players?
Absolutely.
I love My Village. One of the things I don't like about My Village is that it's a giant table hog. It takes a while to set up, and then explain to everybody all the different building actions and what you do with all the dice, you can really get a player with a little less skill can really get shut out every round if they don't understand how important it is to be the first player. Yet in Lorenzo, it's the same style of mechanic where you're building out your tableau, the red, yellow, blue, and what is that? Green harvest cards?
Purple. Oh yeah.
Purple. Sorry,
purple, yellow, blue, green. All right.
That's right. And you're building out your tableau with that, and you're using central dice, but there's limits amounts of dice, and the 3 or 4 dice can be manipulated if you're willing to sacrifice actions to get the stewards, I think they're called, the little purple guys.
Oh, correct. Stewards, the workers.
The workers
that add an additional value to your die.
Add or subtract to your die. Yeah, add to your die.
And just like Lancaster, you use workers to add value to the workers that you place on the board. Same thing.
Lorenzo takes what was a great idea in my village, streamlines it to me, and makes it better. I thought, people, and I said this on Twitter today, people throw around the word elegant all the time. It's kind of nebulous. I never know exactly what they mean until you see it, right? When I played Concordia for the first time, I had heard so many things about it being elegant, and when I played it, I'm like, every action that I take makes sense, And the same thing with Lorenzo. Even in the first play, I could see where my actions were going and what I should be doing. I still lost to Bradley, of course, but
yeah, I mean
that's pretty typical.
That's a given.
Have you guys played Castle Dice?
No.
1 to 11. Yeah, this is kind of a little more of an old school game. This was Kickstarted way back in the day, I guess 2011, 2012, but it was it was 2012.
Internet back then?
Yeah, I know exactly. We had to phone in for a Kickstarter.
You had to crank the internet with to try to get started. Yeah, with a hand crank. Yeah.
Do you remember doing classes with the punch card?
Yes.
Are you old enough to remember that? Yeah.
I'm old enough to remember that. Oh.
But go ahead.
Oh yeah. So Luke Peterschmidt, who runs Fun to 11, they actually sent me a preview copy of that when they had it on Kickstarter, which was 2012, and it was one that I'd played later. But it uses, again, you're rolling dice and you're drafting dice out of the center, and it sounds very similar to Lorenzo, but the actual aspects of what you're saying and the smoothness of play seems to improve upon that, which I really like, because I enjoyed Castle Dice. And I enjoy the aspect of worker placement, but also a central drafting mechanic, which is something that I excel at as far as like just getting when I play a game. Not necessarily it means I'm going to win all the time, but I love that kind of aspect in a game. So I'd love to try it out.
I can highly recommend it.
Unlike my village where you roll out a bunch of dice and everyone draft dice, right? You have 3 basic dice. You have black, orange, and white. And you also have a black, orange, and white worker. So you roll the black, orange, and white die, and the black, orange, and white workers are that number of die that you roll out.
Gotcha.
So, and then you have the worker placement spaces are like they each have a value on them, and there's 4 different ones. There's 1, 3, 5, and 7. So like, to get on the 7 spot, you have to have at least 7 value to go there. So that's where your workers come in to add value to your worker to take that spot. I don't know. It's a little different from my village as far as.
This sounds awesome.
Yeah. And it's got, again, one of my favorite things. Anytime a Euro can do this, I hate games where there's really one best way to win. And in Lorenzo, there isn't. I came out second. I didn't even do the yellow cards at all. I didn't focus on them at all. And other people were, that was their main mechanic, was focusing on getting all the yellow cards. So each person did a completely different way. And it's, the person that wasted less actions. And that's not my strong point. I'm not a very efficient player half the time, especially in the first game. But I just love games like that, which give you multiple paths to victory, And if you can tie in at least a reasonably decent theme, and I think Lorenzo actually, even though Bradley didn't teach the theme, I think Lorenzo had an interesting theme where you're these nobles in Florence, and you're trying to attract attention to yourself. You're trying to develop your tableau, all while recognizing that you got to pay to the church. You gotta. I forgot what the mechanic.
Just like every other Euro.
Yeah, but you're trying to make sure. And listen, the penalties for not paying the church each round or every other round were pretty severe. They're random, and there's a bunch of different ones, but a couple of them we ignored, and we ignored to our peril. I mean, it was you got to pay the church there. So I did like the thematic. I
think one of the penalties was 100 Hail Marys, right, BJ?
No.
Okay. All right.
That's your typical Saturday night, Dave. That's what you're talking about. The other one that I really liked, and we played, although I haven't played without them. They have the leader cards that come with the game, but it's supposed to be an advanced variant for people like you, Chris. I mean, you're going to want to play the leaders and see what you think about them. Each one of those are cards that'll give you bonuses if you can get to them. So again, you got that thematic element where you got all these actual leaders from historical Florence, and if you've ever been to Firenze, they're everywhere. I mean, statues of these guys. So I think you've spent some time out there in Italy. Is that right?
Oh yeah. I've been all the way to Venice, Rome, all up and down. Yeah.
I haven't been to Venice, but Florence is one of my favorite cities. The gelato and the buildings and everything. And then you see this board and Clemens Franz art, and you can't help but remember your time over there by the river in Firenze. I mean, you really feel it. So
that's awesome. Clemens Franz does an amazing job, no matter what he does.
Have you guys ever worked with him?
No, actually, no. But he, interesting enough, he was doing the adaptation of the graphic design stuff for Isle of Trains for the German edition for Lookout Games for us. So they licensed Isle of Trains, and they're going to debut it at Essen Spiel. Actually, 2 weeks? So Clemens took the files from me and just did a couple tweaks for a German edition version of that. But that's the extent I've worked with him. But he's awesome. I will always love his stuff.
The game I was going to talk about is actually a small box release, and you've probably played it. But actually, I'm not going to talk about it because it reminds me of a question I wanted to ask you, Chris. It's an Oink game. Fake Artist Goes to New York, and I'm sure you played that one.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that game.
I've known about it for a year. One of our buddies from the crew to Gumbo is a big fan of Oink games, and he's got a few of them, but he didn't have that one. He and I have been trying to get it. You can only really get it through BGG or through Japan. And then a buddy of mine, Steve O'Rourke from the Dukes of Dice, sent me a copy of it, and we've been playing the heck out of it ever since we got it. I love it, but I saw that you guys mentioned maybe on the Punchboard Media stuff about another game from Oink Games that I haven't heard of called Stamps. What is that?
Oh,
is that one you know?
Stamps. Okay, so there's a game called Stamps, which I'm not sure if it's original Oink release, but the Modern Artist. So Modern Art, rather. It's an old Reiner Knizia game.
Reiner Knizia, yeah.
Yeah, they're repackaging it with a Stamps motif inside an Oink Games box. So very tiny. And Modern Art basically is an auction game. And you're trying to put up, it's an auction but also set collection game. And so you set on this little easel, normally, a piece of art, which is normally a card, but in this edition it'll be stamps. And you're basically trying to pump up that value for this. And some people just play it really fast. Like it's a quick auction game. You can do Dutch auction, blind auction, different things, or different formats of auctions for the different art pieces. And as you collect pieces and also drive up the price, you can then possibly get more prices off it in later rounds as the piece or the artist actually becomes hotter. So it's a very not necessarily complex, but the interactions and the complexities of the art in auctions itself is cool. But what we love about modern art is the fact that we can turn a 30-minute game of modern art into 2 hours because we're like, well, obviously this piece, this is what the artist was thinking about when the artist was doing this. Like there's an episode of State of Games called the one about hobo pain.
Okay.
So if you get a chance to listen to that, it's actually a live recording. It's actually a live recording of us playing modern art with a couple of snippets from it. And you'll hear us describing the art. And this clip from Sean Pertell about describing this piece about the tears of a hobo and the hobo pain that was going into it is amazing. So anyway, it's a great game. It's classic. It's being redone a lot of different times, but the Oink version of it that's supposedly coming out, I guess, after Spiel, it's going to be hard to get, is a little Stamps version of it.
Hey, are you heading to Spiel?
I'm not this year. Have you ever been to Spiel?
I have not.
Okay. It's a weird show. It's fun to go and experience, but it's very much a flea market. You're obviously going to go there and buy stuff. I mean, you're going to get all the cool, new Euro releases and things like that, as long as you pack a giant suitcase and stack them all in and bring them home. But other than that, it's not like Gen Con or Origins or other conventions where you're going to sit down after you buy the game and play games with people, because there's no room to do that in the Spiel convention hall. You'll have to.
That feels like Gen Con.
Well, it is a little bit now. Yeah, that's true. It's a different feel than Gen Con. There's not as much demo space. There's smaller tables. It's fun, and I mean, you can drink beer right in the convention hall, which is awesome. But it's more. There's much more of the wheeling and dealing going on. As far as if you're on the industry side, you're constantly having meetings. That's not any different than Gen Con, honestly. But it's fun. It's a fun show to go and experience. But I'm actually kind of relieved, because after the whole summer season of going to conventions, to be able to take October and not have to worry about going to Germany is kind of a relief to me. But we will have two people, Paul and Mara from Greater Than Games, will be there to network and possibly talk about some partnering possibilities that we have with the companies there. But otherwise, it's fine by me. I'll wait until we get our November, December releases of some of the bigger Essen releases here. I got a couple people who are going over who might mule a couple of things for me. But other than that, yeah, I'm staying around.
All right, BJ from Board Game Gumbo, at Board Game Gumbo on Twitter. We're about reaching the end. Chris, I really appreciate you coming in. I know it's a couple of weeks early. We were testing out this new system, and it seems to be working okay. You can hear us pretty fine? Yep.
Yeah, worked great.
Yeah, Chris, a member of the State of Games podcast. Where else can they find you if they want to reach you, Chris?
You can always find me on Twitter at DiceHateMe. That's the best place.
That's right. Dave Dugas, thanks for joining in. Some good talk.
Oh, yeah.
I think Chris and I have figured out that you're a fan of Fate of the Elder Gods.
Oh yeah, I definitely do. I play that anytime.
If this were State of Games, we'd have called this the one about Fate of the Elder Gods.
The one about Fate of the Elder Gods. That's right.
And I'm assuming that is a reference, right?
What's that?
Was that
Friends? Yeah,
those are Friends references.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the first Dice Hate Me game I got was Compounded, right? That's a Dice Hate Me game.
Oh yeah,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Compounded was fun, dude.
Right. You and Andy have played that a couple of times. I've never actually. I mean, it looks a little bit too much like chemistry.
It's not.
Mamu High School junior year chemistry. Professor Falk. It just brings back some bad memories, man. No, actually, it looks pretty good, Dave. I know you guys have enjoyed Compounded a lot.
Oh yeah, dude. Definitely.
You know the two that I like. I mean,
it's also really good for kids as well. To show them, teach them about chemistry and whatnot, and at the same time, you're just playing the game. Really, I really enjoyed Compounded though. I liked it.
Well, thank you.
And the best part was the Breaking Bad card, right? The meth. You can actually make meth in that game. BJ.
Oh man, we got some flack on that one, and I knew we were going to, but I was like, we'll just do it.
How did that one slide past the censors, Chris?
Well, I'm the censor, and it got past me, so I was like, let's do it. So.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us on the podcast. BJ from Board Game Gumbo. Catch us next Tuesday. We've got Lance Meister from Tasty Minstrel Games. Hey, if you had to ask a question to Lance, what would you ask, Chris?
Oh, I don't think you want me to add to the length of the podcast you're going to have when you talk to Lance. So I will just say, just tell him I said, hey.
All right. Over and
I'll see him at the next show.
So if you're taking the over and under on an hour, what do you think?
Oh, my God. I'm going to take the over on 2 hours. That's what I'm going to put. Well, Lance is awesome. I love talking to him, but he will, he'll elevate that.
So one quick story before you leave. So at Dice Tower, we tried out the new one, Crusaders. I can't remember the whole name.
That will be done. Yeah,
that will be done. So Jack and I, my son Jack and I are trying out. By the way, our little playthrough was pretty fun. But Jack and I were really impressed with it. Lance walks by and he's like, "Hey, you guys look like you're enjoying it." I had met him before a couple of days before at the Stronghold booth, so he said, "Hey, would you mind coming and do a little Kickstarter talk?" Well, this little 2-minute Kickstarter talk. 2 hours later, when he found out that Jack was a World of Warcraft player, that was it. Those dudes could talk WoW for hours. So I will not bring up WoW next week.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
don't do it.
So that's next Tuesday. Lance Meister, the Undead Viking himself. And again, the week after that, I'll have you back on, Chris, if you don't mind, to talk about the game we haven't talked about at all tonight, Legends of Sleepy Hollow. So this is BJ from Board Game Gumbo. Thanking everybody for joining on the broadcast. And until next time, laissez le bon temps rouler. Say goodnight.
Yep.
Good night.
Yeah, yep.